The film starts with a man named Sam who is at a party facilitated by a lady who used to be his ex. Sam's motivation in going to the party isn't to have a good time, but instead to recover his effects, which have been the house. Nonetheless, Sam's ex tells him to sit tight for some time since there are a ton of visitors at the party. After an extensive stretch of pausing, Sam starts to become annoyed because of the way that his ex stays away forever. He again asks where his effects are with the goal that he can take them all alone. His ex at last lets him know that the things are in a close-by room. She likewise tells Sam to stand by there with the goal that they can discuss their concerns. Sam then, at that point, goes to the room that his ex had referenced, and he begins to search for his things. Since Sam can't observe the things, he locks the entryway with the goal that no other person would be able to get in. After he figures out how to observe his things, blood abruptly emerges from his nose, compelling him to take a rest for some time. While Sam is resting, we can hear a shout from beyond the room. The following day, when Sam has recently awakened, he means to return to his home with his things. In any case, when he emerges from the room, he is stunned by the way that the whole spot is a finished wreck. Also, there is blood splatter out of control. Sam attempts to check beyond the room, yet he finds that individuals, counting his own ex, have transformed into zombies. Subsequent to seeing these awful occasions, Sam attempts to keep up with his self-restraint and starts to consider how he will endure the zombie assault. He can hear an odd clamor from the floor beneath, and he is alarmed by a discharge, which breaks the floor of his room. Sam attempts to look at it and it turns that the discharge was shot by somebody who had shot himself. He gets through the floor and goes down to figure out what is truly happening there. Sam then, at that point, understands that this man ended it all in the wake of shooting his own significant other who has transformed into a zombie. He quickly takes all the food supplies alongside the individual's weapon. From that point onward, he goes out to close every one of the ways to guarantee that no more zombies would enter the structure. Sam begins doing a few arrangements, before he starts to investigate every single room in the structure. While gathering helpful things, he stamps which rooms can be utilized and which rooms have been involved by zombies. Whenever Sam has wrapped up looking at the entirety of the rooms, he intends to get back to his room by means of the lift. In any case, there's as of now an elderly person who has transformed into a zombie in the lift. Sam chooses not to kill the zombie since he accepts the zombie isn't especially forceful, and on second thought attaches the iron fence with a belt. Soon thereafter, Sam chooses to quiet down by paying attention to his accounts. The next day, he begins to notice the developments of the zombies that have assumed control over the area. He then, at that point, ascertains how much food supplies he should make do during this zombie attack. After he wrapped up counting the food sources, he let out every one of the feelings that are building up inside him by shooting music as noisy as possible. Yet, he doesn't understand that it will really draw in the zombies. Sam begins to contemplate whether there are different survivors in the city, as apparently the city has now become extremely peaceful, similar to a dead city. Following a couple of days have passed, Sam invests his energy engaging himself by playing music, working out, and shooting zombies, and different exercises. With no companions or somebody still alive, he could waste away in despair that torment his brain. From that point forward, he is going to discard the cadaver that is first floor in light of the fact that the smell begins coming into his room. Notwithstanding, since Sam can't tolerate throwing the cadaver away, so he keeps the grandparents' bodies in a room and seals the opening in the entryway with the goal that no more odor get away. Whenever Sam is cleaning himself, the water suddenly runs out, driving him to track down another way to satisfy his water needs. Soon thereafter, while Sam is dozing, he is surprised conscious whenever the zombies outside figure out how to promptly get through the entryway and mess with him. Indeed, it ends up being only a horrible that Sam has had various times. The next morning, he attempts to quiet himself somewhere near practicing while at the same time paying attention to music. Beside that, he has incessant discussions with a zombie granddad, whom he alludes to as Alfred. With regards to water needs, Sam attempts to gather an assortment of things that he can use to gather water when it downpours. Whenever Sam is working on shooting, he sees a feline cruising by, and he promptly goes down the stairs to get the feline. The feline at first attempts to move towards Sam when he attempts to take care of it. Be that as it may, the feline abruptly takes off, inciting Sam to pursue it. Whenever Sam goes looking for its purposes, a portion of the zombies in the space start to pursue him away. He then, at that point, runs straight into the structure and closes the entryway right away. Sam is extremely frustrated on the grounds that he neglects to view as the just companion who could go with him when he is distant from everyone else. He has been harmed in the leg because of the out-of-control episode. Expecting that he would transform into a zombie, he takes his firearm and focuses it at his own head. Subsequent to sitting tight for some time, Sam is feeling better to understand that the injury is just a minor scratch, and he breaks out snickering. The following day, Sam sees that the zombies are presently not in his space. He has no clue about where they've vanished. He attempts to see from the highest point of the structure. Be that as it may, he can't track down any people or zombies around. Since the weather conditions is getting cold, Sam goes back into the house to clean up to heat up his body. Apparently Sam is beginning to feel desolate in light of the fact that he is abandoned in the city. He plans to leave from that point, yet he is excessively frightened now, so he surrenders his arrangement. He communicates his feelings by chiding the zombie Alfred. Sam then, at that point, begins to play his drums so noisily that the zombies who had recently been missing are currently start to approach him. This sad, exhausting life gradually makes Sam begin to fail to keep a grip on his own brain. In that condition of void, he no longer knows how to comfort himself. Around midnight, he awakens to the sound of something outside, and attempts to shoot the entryway. Whenever Sam approaches it, he understands that it's anything but a zombie, however somebody who has endured the zombie assault. Sam then, at that point, brings the lady into the house and endeavors to save her, since this is whenever he first has met somebody who isn't contaminated. The following day, Sam is cheerful when he sees that the lady is as yet alive. The lady named Sarah. What's more, she says that she has made do by moving starting with one structure then on to the next. It just so happens, there are still a many individuals who have figured out how to make do in the same way as Sam. Nonetheless, most of them have experienced pressure, and some have indeed, even gone totally crazy. Sam educates Sarah regarding his everyday daily practice and the things he does. Besides, he acquaints Sarah with the zombie Alfred. Sarah gives Sam a bit cautioning on the grounds that they don't have the foggiest idea when Alfred's zombies will go after them. Sam seems to have changed decisively because of Sarah's presence in the room. Whenever he is encircled by others, he starts to feel what's genuinely going on with life. As regular, Sam tells zombie Alfred whatever is on his mind. On the next day, Sam chooses to share his food supply with Sarah. Notwithstanding, on the grounds that the food supply is restricted, he designs to go into one of the rooms that were recently involved by a few zombies. He punches an opening in the entryway and shoots every one of the zombies inside. Sam takes all the food supplies and different things he might actually require from the room. At the point when Sam returns, he becomes alarmed when he can't track down Sarah. Incidentally, Sarah has currently on the top of the structure. Sarah lets Sam know that she plans to leave the structure quickly in light of the fact that it is outside the realm of possibilities for them to remain in the structure for a drawn-out time frame. They won't ever be aware on the off chance that there are individuals out there who have made do and fabricated a protected haven for them. Consequently, Sarah likes to go there as opposed to having to stand by in this house with no sureness about what's to come. Sam attempts to persuade Sarah to remain with him, since he is very terrified to do as such. Sarah then guarantees that in the event that Sam doesn't leave, he'll become preposterous and wind up ending his own life. Sam attempts to apologize to Sarah for offering something pernicious prior. In the end, incidentally, all that he had encountered with Sarah was a mind flight. It was subsequently found that Sarah had never awakened since the episode that evening on the grounds that she had really passed on. Sam is extremely miserable when he needs to acknowledge the situation. Subsequent to leading a memorial service for Sarah, Sam goes through her possessions in her pack. He then, at that point, figured out that Sarah has been hitched. In any case, it appears to be that Sarah's whole family has kicked the bucket from the zombie episode, with just Sarah staying alive. From that point forward, he chooses to accept Sarah's recommendation, and consumes each of the accounts he had been utilizing to engage himself. Similarly, as he is going to leave, he recollects that he really wants to get zombie Alfred out of the lift. It appears zombie Alfred would rather not nibble Sam, and he essentially leaves. In any case, Sam is frightened by an alarm, which brought about by a smoke from the recording he had already consumed. Thus, the zombies on outside are attracted, and they can break into the structure. Whenever Sam sees this, he attempts to battle the zombies. Be that as it may, because of the enormous number of zombies, He enters and secures himself in a lift where Alfred was formerly remaining. He likewise attempts to move up the lift to go higher up. Be that as it may, one of the zombies figures out how to find him, compelling him to battle the zombie. Sam then moved in through the opening he had made previously. Incidentally, there are as of now